एनक्रोचमेंट में कंप्लेंट करो। ये आरबीआई का आसान तरीका है आपकी कंप्लेंट सुलझाने का, और वो भी फ्री।
समझे?
आरबीआई कहता है जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Good evening viewers, and welcome back to your favorite weekend dose of Media Scan, the show where we scan the issues which hogged media headlines during the week. We will also discuss a couple of those issues in a more in-depth manner to understand the media's treatment of the subjects. And for that, I have a distinguished panel of guests here. But before that, what made news? The week started with some good news on the corona front. For straight 3 weeks, COVID cases have been on the decline. Experts believe that India is already past its peak and we may be out of the woods early next year. However, caution remains the key. Various countries are already facing a worrying second wave. This was also precisely the message given by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday in a televised address to the nation. After fairly muted political activity for some months, the first full-scale election is on for the Bihar Assembly. With the milling crowds in rallies and voting scheduled next week, the Election Commission came up with a special advisory cautioning everyone to maintain necessary protocol. These polls in the pandemic have generated a lot of interest in the media, and we will discuss this in more details in just a few moments. TRPs or television rating points have themselves become the headlines. While questions have been raised on the ratings on several earlier occasions, recent developments have cast a cloud over the entire process. There is an investigation on some channels in Maharashtra, while the CBI is now investigating similar complaints of tampering in Uttar Pradesh also. This has even led to a meltdown in the media circles and much acrimony among top channels. Some headlines in the past few weeks have reignited the debate whether women are fair game for the media and politicians. While a senior woman legislator was targeted in the most derogatory manner in Madhya Pradesh by a senior politician, the news channels are also being questioned for their depiction of women in some recent controversies. More on this in our next segment. The informal grouping of 4 nations, the US, Japan, Australia, and of course India, is creating a lot of buzz in the global arena. Popularly known as the Quad, the grouping is working on strategic, economic, and even military cooperation. India has just invited Australia to join the much talked about Malabar exercise. China interestingly says it has noted the developments. Geopolitical experts are now openly commenting that it's time for the informal group of Quad to formalize the bloc for better results. Election campaign is in full swing for the Bihar Assembly. There are by-elections too in some states like Madhya Pradesh. How has the pandemic affected the election scenario? Or has it at all? What is the meaning of polls in the pandemic? To discuss all this and more, I have a distinguished panel of political journalists with me this evening. But before I introduce my guests, let's listen in to what Prime Minister Modi had to say on the issue earlier this week.
बीते 7-8 महीनों में प्रत्येक भारतीय के प्रयास से भारत आज जिस संभली हुई स्थिति में है, हमें उसे बिगड़ने नहीं देना है। याद रखिए, जब तक दवाई नहीं, तब तक ढिलाई नहीं। त्योहारों का समय हमारे जीवन में खुशियों का समय है, उल्लास का समय है। एक कठिन समय से निकलकर हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। थोड़ी सी लापरवाही हमारी गति को रोक सकती है।
The Prime Minister's message was essential in the light of the ongoing elections as well as the festival season. So let me now introduce you to our guests who are joining me this evening online. I have with me Sanjay Singh, senior journalist and a well-known political writer for a long time. I also have with me Nistula Hebbar, political editor of The Hindu. Nistula is just back from her Bihar tour to see the election campaign there. You've just come back from Bihar and you must have seen the color for yourself, even though they have not yet started voting there. But the Prime Minister's rallies have begun and election campaign is in full swing with a carpet bombing. My first question to you is, having seen elections, their campaigning, the color of elections for such a long time, and also in the state of Bihar, where people are supposed to be extremely politically savvy, did you see any difference because of the pandemic there in these election scenario? How do you think it has affected the color of the campaign, or has it at all?
Well, compared to previous years, and I would like to also put the caveat that I went a little earlier. I went over the weekend, and I was back in the middle of this week. So I went a little earlier than the full this thing of the color of the election. So so it was a little muted. But if you think that the COVID had put a pall on the proceedings, that's not true. People were quite eager to participate in campaigning. No COVID SOPs were being followed. Masks were on the chin. I mean, I think only the fear of being challaned or something had people carrying masks. Otherwise, I don't think they would have done that either. There were lots of, for door-to-door campaigning, the EC had said 5 people, less than 5 people to be going door to door, and I always saw some big crowd, accompanying the campaign, or the main candidate, etc. So, in that sense, I don't think culturally we have been able to catch up with the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic when it comes to traditional ways of campaigning. We still feel that a large turnout is a sign of popularity and strength. And I don't think any political party would want empty stands at a rally, even if it is social distancing.
Sanjay Singh, I would like to come to you at this point. Just carrying on from Nistula just told us, of course, elections are no elections unless people come out in large numbers, they show their participation, their interest in the campaign, in the interactions, all of that. However, as we just, I just said, and this is not any election. This is the first election that is being held in the midst of the pandemic. We know that the Election Commission was compelled to come out with guidelines, a sort of a reiteration of its guidelines after the pictures which came from the campaign, whether it be door-to-door, small gatherings, or even some of the big rallies. In that sense, when you look at the pictures of the election campaigning, do you think, is it good news or is it cause to get worried?
I think that's a cause of concern. You just played Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remarks and his address to nation, where he cautioned people about the casualness, about our concerns, diminished concerns about COVID, and then we see the situation that is emerging in Bihar. There are 2 things here about campaign in Bihar. A, what Election Commission initially had come out, a very detailed guideline. Yes. And I would say a great deal, a thorough job by Election Commission. That was commendable thing, because these elections are happening here in midst of COVID pandemic, unlocked period, of course. But this was an election across the world have happened in about half a dozen countries, provincial or national. Bihar election for India and for the world was going to be one test case. And it's a very big state, a very politically conscious state. And we all know that people were going to be there. Initially, we thought that this was going to be almost 100% digital campaign, and door-to-door or campaigning as we knew so far. And as we know, public rallies were perhaps would not be there. But as election progressed, dates of electioneering progressed, I think that old rallies are back. 2 things again. Today, if contrast Prime Minister Modi's rally with some rallies held by Tejaswi Yadav, I'm not saying that
yes.
The comparison of course, gives you a sense as to how people, the organizers, are perceiving the situation.
No, Sanjay ji,
Because-
I would like to interrupt you here just for a second here. How do you think it could have been done in any other way? What other way could have been followed? Because we know that the guidelines for digital campaigning to be, the campaigning to be done totally on a digital scale did not take off.
Precisely, some parties did try. BJP, in fact,
Yes.
was way well ahead in digital campaign.
But
and they
that
actually had
also has been a
company-
combination of physical as well as digital campaign,
Precisely.
not a
Precisely.
solely
That-
digital.
Precisely. That was combination of physical and digital. It was not exactly physical versus digital, as was initially perceived to be. I think we saw a situation when we saw candidates of various political parties. They were moving out door-to-door campaigning or,
Yes.
or moving on motorbikes or whatever. They were not wearing any mask, not even on the chin. Mask was nowhere. And candidate supporters also were not wearing masks, and people at large, even during peak of pandemic, there were reports that people actually were not maintaining COVID-19 precaution protocols. In this case, what happens when you want to create a momentum, and as we see in particularly rallies like Tejasvi Yadav, when you want to create a momentum, you want your supporters and whosoever your sympathizers are to come and
Right.
aggressively.
So
vote for
basically
you,
what you are
as
trying
if
to
there
tell
is a
us is,
momentum in that particular party.
when the tempo
in
has
favor
been
of that.
built up, when the tempo has been built up by the political leaders or a party or the supporters and campaigners, and then, you know, it is like a juggernaut rolling. It is completely impossible to stop it midway once it has taken off. On that point, I'll come to you, Nistula, and I would like to ask you, particularly from a journalist's vision or point of view, we have been covering elections for donkey's years. However, from the point of view of a journalist who is covering these elections, because journalists are an essential part of the entire election scenario, do you think journalists have also put themselves at risk? And also,
Yes, sir.
whether leaders failed their supporters and the people, the voters in general, by not cautioning them about campaigning, because, you know, they put politics above health, perhaps?
Journalists are putting themselves at risk, especially because there are no SOPs that any media organization has actually put in place for their journalists. So when I went there, I found that 80% of the Delhi media which had traveled to Patna had homes in Patna, and therefore they traveled. The officers probably thought that they were minimizing some of the risks because people were going to their homes, you know, to their parents or, you know, relatives, etc. Some of the journalists who did not have homes in Patna had already suffered from COVID. So there was a feeling that at least for 3 or 4 months there would be some antibodies in this person and would have provide some sort of protection to people. But this is just by the way, you know, there is no institutionalized sort of SOP or even PPEs or anything that has been provided, any kind of protection has been provided by media organizations.
On that note, I'll just ask for a final comment from you before I would like to move on to the next subject for discussion. You see that journalists are learning, maybe they are learning from each other's experiences, not always very helpful. Do you think the media organizations have failed their own personnel as much as political parties?
Besides giving news, we also are competing with our media houses rivals and also amongst each other. The people who are very friendly with each other in terms of news, they start competing. And when that situation happens, people, of course, initial caution that was there in terms of when this thing started has gone now. When somebody goes there, I know for a fact that a journalist called me and he wanted to go by train. So, and do what we call a mood story. So I asked, why are you choosing a train? Then he gave me that would be a great experience. I was told, go by train and talk to people. Of course, that's a great experience and a great story. But under the circumstances, would that be a prudent step?
So clearly two things have come out here in the subject of polls in the pandemic, and that is politicians, senior politicians, even the top leaders of their respective political parties may have put politics above the health of their people, their supporters and voters. But clearly, media organizations, leaders of media houses also haven't done exactly what they should have. to ensure safeguards and protection of their personnel. With that, I want to move on to the next subject of discussion on the table today. When it comes to politics or media, women have been on the receiving end forever. But the past few weeks have been particularly worrying. First, cases of brutal crimes against women from various parts of the country on the one hand, and now derogatory below-the-belt remarks by well-known politicians mark the headlines. Which brings me to this subject of discussion this evening: are women fair game in politics and media? Before I go to our panelists to get their views on the subject, here's a look at what the editorial in one of the leading national dailies said on this subject. Nisla, on this I want to come to you first, because you have lately written on the subject. We have read editorials, op-ed columns, comments in television media, digital media, everywhere. Why are women in politics always subjected to such below-the-belt treatment, below-the-belt remarks, personalized, offensive comments, why can't they be taken up just for their politics or their respective work?
I want a very philosophical answer to that. It's that, you know, each gender faces its own set of problems when you go into a very, very competitive space like politics. You know, nobody is there for a picnic. Everybody is there to grab power, and you grab power whichever way you want. You have to undermine your opponent. Having said that, women face a double whammy in the sense that they are already not so empowered as men in our society, and require you know, a greater push and some more space to be accorded to them to make it in politics. Character assassinations, slurs, slights, all these things are par for the course. I don't think that there is a single political leader, whether she comes from a dynasty or not, who has not been at the receiving end of very personalized sort of attacks which attack the character of the person. Of course, more so for people who don't come from such backgrounds, but also the fact that you're a woman can also overwhelm the fact that you come from a politically connected dynasty.
Some of these women leaders who have been at the receiving end of such personalized, very offensive and objectionable comments have often said that why do they need to prove themselves that they are politicians and must be viewed as such when their male counterparts are not being subjected to such treatment? Why do they need to prove themselves double over?
Well, Smita, you and I have been working in what is in a field which is considered a male field mostly, which is politics. We've been covering politics. So we know better, I mean, who knows it better than us, that, you know, insecurity works out in various ways. And when the rewards are very few and contenders are many. You try to undermine people any which way that you can. When it comes to women, men have it easy. It is easy to insult women and undermine their character, and therefore the women come under domestic pressure and family pressure to say, why are you getting into something which leads to this kind of talk about you? Why don't you just leave it alone? And then you have one less competitor.
I'll come to you on this, Sanjay ji, now. My question to you is, while we see so many women being, almost all of them actually in public life, being attacked so fiercely and in such derogatory language all the time, whether it is election campaigning or usual day-to-day politics, we hardly see women attacking their male counterparts in such a personalized or below-the-belt remark. They may, of course, attack their opponents for political issues. My question to you is, since you have been observing political parties and day-to-day politics for more than 2 decades now, why are political parties within their system not able to restrain their male leaders, their male workers from making such comments on women? Do you think the disciplinary action part of the political parties is slack on this, or they think it's unnecessary, or is it that the leaders just don't care?
To begin with, so Smita, I would like to be more specific and general in this context.
Yes.
I think we are discussing this particular topic because a certain politician, former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Kamal Nath, who has also been Union Minister
Many
during
times.
UPN, many times Congress Minister at the center, a senior most Congress leader and many multiple term MP, has said something about Imarti Devi item. Item, as we all know that in colloquial language, the item word has a derogatory or sub meaning for women. And that too calling an item to Imarti Devi, who had been his cabinet colleague till some time back when he was in government, and also a very senior leader from the state. We have also seen this kind of thing happening in parliament,
Yes.
where the chair, one of panelists on for chairpersons, this thing, when she was on the chair, certain parliamentarian made certain remark which created a furor. We have also seen some remarks being made about finance minister when she was speaking about a rival leader from a rival political formation. These things are of course there, and I think there is a greater deal of, with advent of social media, I think even if political parties are not checking, the social media is naming and shaming them. That I think is a good beginning. These people must be kind of taught a lesson. And unfortunately, in this particular case, Kamal Nath was not even repentant about that. He did not think that he did
No, he
commit
defied
any
the
wrong.
party leadership when
Precisely.
his party leader
Precisely.
Rahul Gandhi pointed out that this was not acceptable.
Precisely. Rahul Gandhi spoke after 5 days.
But he said he did, but Kamal Nath ji said he did not care.
Yeah. And Kamal Nath, of course, completely defied Rahul Gandhi's remarks. Larger number of women are in parliament, larger number of women are in assembly, larger number of women are in corporates, larger number of women are in government jobs, and larger number of women are also in tier 3 of our democratic system, that is in panchayats, in several states, including in Bihar, where elections are currently being held. 1/3 reservation goes to women. Those things are changing, but yes, you are right. These people must be named and shamed by their bosses in view, whichever and whatsoever field they are.
I have a question here. Public naming and shaming, calling them out on the social media or writing in other platforms of the media is fine. But do you think the party mechanisms within the political system have to be more strict about such complaints? I have never seen any leader being pulled up within the party system by the disciplinary committee or any other such mechanism to ensure that they do not do this again. We comment on the media, we criticize them, and then we move on till the next worst comment is made.
You are 100% right. This is a case whereby political leaders criticize criminals, but when it comes to giving tickets, they distribute maximum number of tickets. And unfortunately, even in this case, Congress has a very higher percentage. Not that other parties do not have that kind of percentage.
It's not just politics. Even the media hasn't covered itself with glory in the depiction of women. When one actor recently went to court against her treatment in some media channels, the I&B ministry reiterated its guidelines and has asked news channels to strictly adhere to the advisory, particularly in the depiction of women. Let's take a look. Before I come to wind up my show this evening, clearly the media also has a lot to answer for, particularly if we look at the coverage in the past 1 month or about five weeks. As I said, one actor had to go to court because she felt so slandered by the language used about her in a certain section of the media. My point to you is, Sanjay ji just raised the issue of more women bringing a change. We clearly have a lot of women now in the media. Numbers are not a problem anymore. Why do you think then even media channels have been so lacking in a fair, a just and a sympathetic or at least a human treatment to women who are in news? Do you think it is just crass competition or is it an ingrained social mindset?
So there are two particular reasons why misogyny and discrimination against women and this kind of really unseemly depiction of women in popular culture and media persists, especially in news media, which should have known better. One is that there has been an unprecedented explosion in the media space. There have not been there are all sorts of channels and all sorts of people, and they're all been pushed into a situation where they're competing for a very small advertising pie. Everybody wants to be sensational. They're hunting for headlines, and they think that this kind of sensational sort of puerile depiction of women or actresses or people who are popular will attract eyeballs to them, and therefore more of the advertising revenues. Secondly, while it is true that there are a lot of women, as Sanjay ji said, who have started working in the media sphere. Smita, you and I have been in this profession for more than 2 decades now, you longer than I have been. And how many of the women we started out with, who were in hard news or whatever as reporters, have made it to editorial spaces, who have made it to senior spaces.
True.
We
Very
had
true.
a very well documented case of a large number of women dropping out in middle management level, and therefore you find very few women making it to decision making positions, and even when they do, they are the token woman who has somehow made it to the high table. So how much her feelings about things are going to be taken into account, or how much she would undermine her own feelings as a woman to be one of the boys and to be taken seriously by the men who are actually holding controls. That is something that women have to examine for themselves.
Right.
And we have
So very
to stop
clearly,
this.
so just before I wind up, there was one thing that caught my attention in the social media. As we all know, social media has almost started acting as a driver of narratives, of political views, other issues. Even now the mainstream media is also compelled to take over and take on some of the issues which are fielded by the social media, which till some time back the mainstream media would not have cared for. One such issue which caught my attention in the last 3 to 4 days is a big number of people, most of them calling themselves activists, have been attacking Indian festivals like the Durga Puja, the Navratri, by correlating the celebration of these festivals with the recent cases of crimes against women and other issues concerning women and young girls. They were called out by the media, particularly on Twitter, because there was a lot of reaction on this, and therefore from both sides there was a lot of heat generated on this issue. Before I wind up, I want a quick comment from Sanjay ji on this. Sanjay ji, you must have seen the hot discussions, the arguments, clearly a lot of heat over Durga Puja and social crimes.
That is very unfortunate. What particular case, I think Eros now had put out something, and that was hugely objectionable.
Which is now withdrawn.
Which is now withdrawn, of course withdrawn, but then that was hugely, and then a whole lot of other such crap floating around. And whenever such festivals come, particularly Hindu festival, then there is tendency to play around and make this kind of things which actually hurt sentiments of lakhs and lakhs of people. Having said that, one has to be very sensitive about one's or somebody else's religion and the way somebody perceives the puja. Navratri in particular is very austere, very kind of has a high spiritual and religious value for people. And in this particular case, mind you, Durga Puja is about Ma Durga, Ma Kali, the following festival, and these two are most powerful goddesses in Hindu religious system.
Nistula, one line on this if you want.
Well, I've always felt that the more you stay away from commenting on religious festivals of all religions, it's better, and to attach any religion to what are crimes against women, or all sorts of violence or whatever. No religion ever advocates violence and crime against women. So it's not fair to attach these kind of feelings and it is better to have kept away from it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Everybody feels free to express themselves on the social media on any subject, and I think that is as it should be. However, can attacking the festivals of any community help in the cause of solving the problems as regards social crimes or gender crimes is anybody's guess. While TV channels are engaged in a crass competition for TRPs, your favorite channel Doordarshan is here to bring you news and views from all over the country and the world. Do keep watching DD India, and we here on Media Scan will continue to check headlines and scan the media. Till next weekend, good night.